Well, good morning. I had a super late night, and then I don't know. I woke up a little bit late for um, getting started here because the sun's coming up, but it's still not too late to get flats. So I'm gonna start with that this morning. Last night was fun. I had to be out of town, and so I decided to try doing an unattended session. So I scheduled the session to start unattended, and um, in K-Stars, and it just worked flawlessly last night. I was able to, through the K-Stars Live, monitor the progress while I was away, and and just kind of get familiar with K-Stars Live a little bit, but also with the scheduling, and doing sequencing. So anyway, I need to get going because the sun here is going to um, impact my ability to get flats on the sky, or easily anyway. It'll take a while. I do by I set exposure by ADU, and which is around 32,000 something, half of the 16-bit um, image ADU, and uh, and sometimes it can take a while um, to get the correct exposure, especially as the sun's coming up and the uh, the level of brightness, the ambient brightness is changing. It impacts every frame of the flats a little bit. Um, a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but if I'm not in a hurry, it really doesn't matter. And this morning, I'm not in a hurry for anything, so just gonna have coffee. Thanks for joining me. We're gonna process the Veil Nebula, and I have been working on this for, gosh, 3 weeks or more. A lot of that, the reason for the length of time that it's taken is poor seeing and storms and uh, all kinds of stuff. Not to forget that a ton of problems. I was on Astroberry, and I am now using StellarMate. So I'm still using K-Stars and Ecos, but StellarMate's been kind of a game changer for me. I was having problems with StellarMate running on the Raspberry Pi, but I've since switched. I'm running K-Stars and Ecos on the on my laptop now and connecting to it remotely, and that has been just a huge improvement for me for stability. And which is I was very, very frustrated. I was actually like shopping um, uh, mini Windows PCs because I was thinking about switching platforms completely. But everything's working so good now. So the indie server's running on the Raspberry Pi, and I'm running my astrophotography, astronomy software um, locally on the laptop now, and that is working 100% better. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. My name is Doug, and this is AstroAF. All right, so over here in Ecos capture module, I've got I'm setting up a capture sequence. It's just going to be for my flats. I thought I'd show you around. So anyway, I'm configured with the ZWO ASI 533 MC Pro. And I've got my gain and offset. I'm actually going to need to wait here just a little bit. I got to get the temperature up. So I will drink coffee for a bit while that is coming down to temperature. Um, but I just start my exposure around 1. I'm not sure where it'll actually be because for flats, which I have configured here, I have a flat duration which sets the exposure automatically at 32,768. which is half the 16-bit ADU, or max ADU, and that works really well for me for consistent flats. Everything else is pretty much the same. I've got I'm going to be putting flats into the same directory as my my lights from last night. I will give it a name though, which is my target, which was NGC 6960, and I guess we can go have a quick look. So yeah, so here's my 8 days of imaging and my lights from last night. So I have yet to go through and check all those images for quality, but I will do that shortly. But for now, I'll be back in just a bit here as the camera cools down, because I want to take these flats at the same temperature. Okay, we're at temperature now, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll add this to the sequence queue. And I'm going to switch myself off here, because this will take a little bit, and I'm going to speed through this, pull up the log window just a little bit so we can see that. And anyway, we'll go through the flats process here. So it looks like I lost connection. Oops. And but I may have enough, or let me see if I'm going to finish this. I got 43. All right, flats are completed, and had some sort of I lost my network connection there. I haven't seen that before. I think it's just this morning's glitch, but I've got all of my flats now. I'm going to switch over and set up for biases. I'm set up over the telescope for biases, and so here in the capture module, I just need to leave everything else the same, except I'm going to lower the exposure to the absolute minimum, and I'm going to change my format, or my type I mean, to bias. We'll get rid of that previous sequence. Everything else stays the same. I like to do this as fast as I can, since I've got the cover on and stuff is still running, so that as soon as this finishes, I can go ahead and shut things down. Okay, so that completed just fine. Now I just want to get things shut down and get the so the camera cooler and stuff isn't running underneath the cover. And so I will go ahead and disconnect. So at this point, I've got everything I need, and I have my lights from last night, and I was able to capture 80 images, 85-minute images overnight last night. And that was fun, and doing it unattended and monitoring remotely. The scheduler just worked really good. And then my flats and my biases. Now I have master darks, and I just I'm copying those. And I'll bring those into my folder. And my naming got, I usually have this set up correctly, but I did not this time. Because I use Siril, and it cares what the names of these folders are for processing. All right, so that's pretty much ready to go. Next step is going to be to um, start processing. I'm going to do that in Sirilic, but before that I'm going to make another cup of coffee and take a little break here and probably relocate somewhere else for the time being to jump in on the processing work. So talk to you in just a few. All right, so to begin, I'm going to go through a blink process and look at last night's images. Um, and one of the first things I do, and this is really most of the stuff in the process that I use is learned from Rich over at Deep Space Astro. And so for any really deep dives and tutorials for Sirilic or Siril, I would definitely direct you over there. He's got a great library of videos for Siril tutorials that I have found to be just invaluable. So I want to, thank you, Rich, for all you do over there. It's helped me out a great deal. So for blinking, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename my lights directory. I just use like lights original or orig, and then I'll create a new empty lights folder. So the original is where my lights are and where I'm going to bring them in for conversion. I don't really actually have to convert these because they're already fits, but I go through the conversion process because that allows me to create a sequence that I can then blink through and select the images that, or better said, deselect the images that I don't want to be used. And those are going to then, when I export the sequence, be exported into my lights directory, and that will be my final selection of images for stacking. So over in Siril, I want to set my home directory to the day 8 for me lights folder that I just created, the empty one. That's important because that's where that sequence is going to export to. And then let me open this up and go to the conversion tab. And I want to load in the files to be converted. And I'll navigate back into my day 8 folder here, and I'll go to the originals folder. And I'll select all of those and add them. And for sequence name here, I just like to use like CONV for conversion. These are going to get deleted later, so it really doesn't matter, whatever you want. I found that I need to deselect symbolic link and make sure dbayer is deselected for this. Otherwise, I will get different sizes of images. It'll upsample them to 32-bit, and that causes the later process for stacking to fail. So anyway, yeah, I had a discussion on an issue ticket over in the Siril repository about this, and the only workaround that I could figure out was to never have either of these selected during this process for blinking. So when I convert these, it's going to go ahead and get all my images set up. I think if we look at this point, if I go to my lights directory, I've got all my conversion files here, and the sequence is created, and that's going to be what we are doing our quality control step on here. I can open these up in this little tab here to show hide the list of images in the sequence, and here's all of my images that I just converted. And if I change this over to, notice that this process, I end up with black and white. This is, I'm not happy about with the way that Siril works, but really I go over to histogram, and then I can get a decent idea of the images that, you know, and blink through them. So now I'm just gonna, with my arrow key, I'm just going to start looking at these images. I know that there's a few at the end of this sequence that I think I lost the astronomical darkness, and twilight was starting, and I think they started to get a little bit lighter, and I was losing detail. But I usually run my my capture sequences a little bit before the end of twilight and a little bit after, since I'm using the Optolong L Enhanced filter. I can get a few extra images. So I had a meridian flip. I also like to look for anything that might be moving here. It's an opportunity to maybe find something, you know, an asteroid or something like that, that I get lucky enough to find in my images. And I'm just sort of navigating back and forth and trying to get an idea. Now, as we get to the end, it's a little bit lighter, and I've lost some detail, and I'm kind of looking at the detail of the nebulosity and it might be hard to see here in the video here, but there's nebulosity that I care about. And obviously the Veil Nebula here itself, this is Western Veil, some people call it the witch's broom, is important, but I'm really wanting to get this other nebulosity that's around. And I'm kind of losing that here at the end because it was getting a little bit brighter at the end of the session. So right now I'm looking for, when is that consistency end? So about right there. So I think I'm going to get rid of like the last 7 of these images. Yeah, I think from this point on, and obviously it gives you a large X, letting you know that this one has been rejected. So I'm going to do that for these remaining. And then I'm going to go back through and just double check. And I kind of like to go fast because this is where I'm looking for anything that might be moving around in the images or anything of interest. And I don't worry about you know, shooting stars or airplanes or something coming through a capture that'll get removed in the stacking process. I'm concerned about clouds and the details that are in the image, and rejecting ones that aren't looking as good, because I'm afraid it would pull away from my data. All right, so that should do it. So I've got my images selected for exporting the sequence. So I'll go over to the sequence tab, and here, so it's automatically selected the conversion sequence for me. And then I'm just going to give it a name. I like to use QA for, it's been quality, it's quality assurance or quality checked. And then the object name. And with that, then I just export the sequence, and that's going to export this out to my lights directory. All right, and that's done. And at this point, if I go over into lights, I can select and delete these conversion files. So anything that starts with CONV, I can move to trash. And I'm left with 72 images from last night's session that I'm going to use. And from there, we will go into, I'm going to go into Sirilic, and I'll show you around in there here in just a moment. Yeah, so at this point, I want to bring the session from last night into the Sirilic project that I've been building. I just basically do this process every night until I'm done with the project. So Sirilic is installed and is started through the command line. And again, on Sirilic, if you're interested in deeper dive information, now defer you over to Deep Space Astro's channel for the related content on that, because he just does a really good job on it. So I'll start up Sirilic, and as you can see, I've got my 7 prior sessions already in here, and so I want to create the 8th and final session here. So you can select any of these, but I just, by matter of process, select the last one. I'll show you why in just a second. And I want to, under the project tab, I want to add a light, and this is going to be my my day 8 session. Now the really important thing here is to change the session name. I'm just using incrementing the numbers here. So if you look over here under session, these are the different session numbers, which equate to my days. And then also make sure that you have the right, for me it just selects automatically based on what I've been doing, but you can modify it to whatever else that you like, and then click OK. Now at this point, it's really important. So notice that the first session is selected right now, and if we do any changes over into the Files section, so here in the Files tab, we're actually working on session 1 right now, and we don't want to do that. We want to work on session 8. And it pre-populates from the most recent session, so I go ahead and clear these out. And these are my my lights and biases, darks and flats. So I'm going to be adding the paths to those here. And the way that I do this, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can use the Add button over here and go select the files. I just open them up in Finder next to Sirilic here, and drag them in. And so lights into lights. Biases into the biases. Darks into darks. And then the flats is the last one that I do. And they have a place for dark flats here, but I don't use those. And then the other thing to check And once you do this initially, like on your first session, it's going to be the same. But this is for the entire project. So bias to subtract is selected on the flats because we definitely want that. You know, they have the cool process tool, and as you can see, the biases master is being subtracted from the flats here to create the flat master. And so this process tab is actually really nice because it gives you a visual of how this is actually going to work. So at this point, I'm going to save the project. So if I lose something, I don't have to do that again. And then we are going to go through the actions here. So in the actions tab, I want to build the directories and link the images. It's going to use symbolic links, and so I click that, and that'll just take a moment, and that's finished already. And the next thing is going to actually be running this script. So it's the OSC pre-processing script, and for that I'm going to switch over to screen only. This is going to take a while with 8 nights of sessions, and so I will speed through it. So in the Actions tab, just run the Siril script, and we're off to the races. All right, so at this point, Sirilic completed, and we've got the image. It automatically opened up in Siril, and you know, I use an image that I create at the beginning of my sessions. I name it Solver, and I use it for every night on a multi-night session. And I've been getting really good results with it. So after 8 nights, my stacking artifacts are pretty limited. You know, it's not too bad. I don't have a whole lot to do to crop away from the image. So that's been working really well for me. I don't know if you do that or not, but for me, I think it's been a good part of the process for getting good alignment from night to night. So now that we're here in Siril, obviously the first step is to go ahead and let's get rid of these stacking artifacts. I want to make sure that I'm seeing the entire image here. Yeah, okay. We'll fit that to the window to make sure. It looks like I can go almost all the way up. I'll start over here, somewhere about right there. I just want to line up my crop to get rid of those artifacts. I'll come back and double check that. All right, get everything that I can there, and we'll go ahead and crop that. And double check. It looks like we're good around the outsides. So after a crop, the next step for me is always going to be background extraction. And in Siril on Mac, there's been a bug in it. It's a real pain that I cannot deselect a grid box without crashing Siril, and it'll close. So I can only add. I mess around with Graxpert a little bit, but I really am not confident in using it yet because I've only played around with it one time. So I'm going to, what I like to do here is just back off my grid tolerance pretty low to have it autofill some for me. And I select dither, and I'm going to go ahead and generate, and then I'll just see how the grid tolerance looks. And I think I need to move my picture-in-picture over. As you can see, I've got all of the grid items here. There's one that one's kind of close to the nebulosity. I am going to, I think I'm going to back that down a little bit more and regenerate. Not quite yet. See, this would be so nice if I could just deselect that, but I have to go through all this. Okay, so that's gone. So let's double check these. Now I'm going to add. So I just go through a process of manually adding. You know, and the main thing is to not get on any bright stars. So I'm looking for little spots in between the stars. It's just black space. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so looking back over here, I make sure that I have add dither selected. And whatever you do, don't hit generate again. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and I've lost all the work that I just did setting those points. And then compute background. All right, and apply. So at this point, if we go over to RGB, we can see that all that blue has come out nicely from the blue channel, because there's a lot of blue data in this particular set. I'm really happy with the quality of the data that I have on all these, and I think that that it's really important to kind of be hypercritical of your rejection process when you're doing your blinking and stuff, and just kind of be ruthless. So next we'll move into some color calibration. And actually, I guess before we go to color calibration, we could go ahead and remove green noise. All right. And then I'm going to use, I do the color calibration first because I'm going to be doing star removal. And as soon as I start messing with any stretching or anything like that, it affects my ability to use the photometric color calibration. It messes with it, and it won't actually do it for me. Hopefully this will work out okay. So I'll enter in, it's NGC 6960 is my target here, the Veil Nebula. We'll find that. It looks like it already had it from the metadata on the FITS image, and I'm double checking so I've got the right focal length and pixel size for my camera, which these are correct. And everything else can just remain the same, and click OK. All right, so it just did the color calibration and close. And I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and remove stars so that I can start working on the nebula itself independently, because I want to preserve star color, and the stretching process can really have a tendency to blow out some of these, especially brighter stars that are already really well saturated, and especially this up in this area of the Veil Nebula. So we'll go ahead and start doing the star removal process now. All right, so for star removal, this process will take a little bit, and so I'll probably switch over here and speed through it during processing. But anyway, I'll go down to star processing under the image processing drop down, and I'm going to use Starnet, star removal. Now, if you're not familiar with Starnet and would like more information, again, I'm going to defer over to Rich at at Deep Space Astro, and because he's got an excellent tutorial on this, and me trying to redo that kind of video would just be recreating the wheel. So, yeah, because thank you, Rich. Your tutorials have been great. So anyway, I'll click on the Starnet star removal here to get the process going. All right, and in here we do want to remember we're viewing here in auto stretch at this point in time. Our linear image is still black, and so for Starnet to work right, we need to do a little bit of a pre-stretch, and that's one of the options here for the Starnet star removal, and then generate star mass, which is default. Everything else I just leave as default. Let me switch over to just screen only and I'll speed through this. Okay, at this point, we should have a starless image, and as you can see down in the lower left here, we're looking at the starless RGB fit, and so if we move back over to auto stretch, we can see our starless image, and that is looking really good. I'm really pleased with this in auto stretch. So the next thing is to go ahead and begin stretching this and processing it. So we'll go ahead and get into that now. So yeah, at this point we'll begin processing. We're looking at this in auto stretch now, so linear, it's still black, but I'm really excited about the prospects here. The oxygen is going to be strong in this. The witch's broom part here of the Western Veil Nebula is. I'm going to try and bring out the blues in this much more than what you're seeing here in the initial auto stretch, and also down through here. And then the hydrogen alpha, the reds, should be pretty easy to bring out. And I think the goal will be to get as much as I can out of the nebulosity here without oversaturating it. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, we will go ahead and move into linear. So to begin with, I'm going to do an Asinh Transformation, and this is just to bump the histogram over just a little bit, and bring that up so I can just start seeing. So here comes some of the brighter points. Okay, I'm just starting to see some nebulosity there, so I'm going to stop at that point. And I'll apply that. And go back into image processing, and I'm going to use a generalized hyperbolic stretch transformation here. And I think I'll zoom in just a little bit. So I want to select just at the top on the dark side of the histogram here to set my symmetry point, and I want to stretch from that point over here to begin with. So we'll give it a good stretch and see what we get. All right, that's pretty awesome. I think I can go a little bit more. Let's stop there. I can go a little bit more, I think. And I'll tell you why, because a little bit later I'm going to be working with the background. So let's apply that, and then let's work on the black point next. And so I'm going to just, I want to bring this over as far as I can without clipping. So I'm watching down here in my clipping percentages to make sure that I don't have any clipping. I don't want to lose any data. So I just started clipping there. So I'm going to back that off till it's 0. So right there, and I'll apply that. Now I'm going to go back over to the generalized hyperbolic transform, and let's see if we can get a little bit more out of this. And it's really just a kind of to a matter of taste. You know, what level, you know, that you like. One thing I like to do here, I think I'm going to back that off just a little bit. I'll apply that, and now I want to look at, if we back down to our histogram, the red, green, and blues, look, I think they're lined up pretty good. I think I could probably bump, so that the green and the blue are lined up good, but I want to bring the reds up just a little bit. So I'm going to deselect red and blue, and I'm just going to bring the reds over so that we are aligned a little bit better for our color channels. So we'll just give that a shift and bring that over, and that should bump those reds up for us. Yeah, that looks good, and I'll apply that. So at this point, our color channels are all peaking about the same point, and I'm really happy with where we're at there. So I am done with the transformations. And so next, I want to go into color saturation, and I'm going to work on bringing up some blues here, and let's see what we can do with the reds. I'll start with the blues. We'll start with the cyan blue and blue magenta, and see if we can bring those out. And I might need to do a couple. You can do this over and over again. So we'll do it again. Let's see if we can get those blues. One thing I wish is they would leave that window open on the apply, because I have to come back over here. Let's go up to the cyan here and bump it. Let's do that cyan again. Honestly, I think I'm just going to keep doing more of these blues saturation. Because I know I can get more of those blues to come out. Starting to get some good highlights there in blue. Let's do the cyan again. Yeah, that's really interesting. In these areas, right through there, and the oxygen that's coming out, you know, through up in here too. Let's do one more of the cyan, and then I'm going to move over to reds. Now on the reds, because there's a lot of hydrogen alpha data here, you have to be really careful. I think it's usually really easy to oversaturate. And let's see, if I just take this all the way up, actually it's not horrible. This area in here is getting close to oversaturated, and I might I think that's probably going to do it. Let's leave it at that. I don't think there's any more color saturation that I want to do on this right now. So I think I'm going to do some wavelets. And this is really just a matter of messing around. Uh, a lot of times what I end up doing, and we'll see how it works, is I'll start down here on layer 6 and I just blur this out. And then I start working on sharpening for each layer. And so I'll bring that up about the same. And I just really start dialing that in. That was actually really nice on 2 there. That dark, layer 1 always seems to darken it more than I like. Back 2 off just a little bit. And I'm just going to keep playing with sliders here, seeing what I like. That was actually kind of nice right there. Getting too red on that. You know, and sometimes might completely start over. We'll see. And let's zoom in on that and see how it is looking. I think that looks pretty good. We'll go with that. And then I think I'm going to run 1 pass of noise reduction. All right. And I think with that, I am done processing the starless here in Siril. So I'm going to save this. And I'm not going to save the original. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to save it as. And I've been doing all this work in the work directory that was created for me from Sirilic. I'm going to move this over now to my project. And we'll go in here. And I'm going to create a directory called processing. Okay, and we'll call this starless. Oops. I must have accidentally hit that other file that was in there. Yeah, that's good enough. And we'll save that to the processing directory. And we'll keep that as a, actually, I think this is 32-bit at this point. As the fits, actually, no, I'm going to cancel. I want to save this as a TIFF at this point, which I'm going to be working with. So let's go back and yeah, so there's starless, and I want to go into pictures. We'll go into my processing directory. And I will save that as a TIFF file. And that'll be a 16-bit save here. And so we'll save that off. And then over here in the fit that we've been working on for the starless, I'm going to go ahead and just save that. So that's saved at the point of processing that we're at now, back over in the work directory. So at this point, I'm going to take the starless file, the TIFF I just created, and go over and do some processing on that in Photoshop. So that's what we'll do next. All right, so at this point, I want to go ahead and take this over into Photoshop. So we'll open up Photoshop, and then we'll work on that TIFF that I just created. And we'll open that TIFF. All right, and what I like to do here is I'm going to do some color casting. I'm going to end up creating 3 different layers, one for black, one for red, and one for blue, I think, to start with. So I'll create a new selective color layer, and I'll rename that to black. All right, and it already has a black swatch on it. And I want to go over and select a background area here with the eyedropper tool, and let's try like right in here, and let's bump the black. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I want to darken that up. Play with some sliders here and see what we get. I don't want to lose the reds. See what we're losing. I'm just kind of sliding back and forth and looking and seeing what we got here. Let me bring the blacks up a little bit more. See, if I go too far, yeah, it's getting a little unrealistic. I want to kind of preserve the natural feeling of this. Yeah, we don't want any of that. Definitely not that. Yeah, so let's just work on the blacks. So darken that up about there. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and create another adjustment layer, and let's work on the blue this time. And I'm going to give this layer a color of blue just for visual, and we will go over and zoom in here. I want to get that blue. Okay, that looks good. And let's see what we get with cyan adjustment. Let me reset here. I'm going to brighten up my screen. I should have done that to begin with. All right, and then let's go to the reds. Yeah, that really makes it pop. Add a little bit of browns into that maybe. Yeah, I like that. Let's go back to blue. I want to see if I can bring out some more. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and merge these layers. And then I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going to make this a smart object. And I'm going to do a camera raw filter on this now. And we'll just see how this goes. So in basic, I really want to see these blues, but not like that. So just a hint. And this is all just playing with sliders now. So I don't know that I really want any texture. But maybe we'll zoom in here. I kind of want to keep that soft because we don't want to introduce, noise. All right. I guess we could look at the curve just a little bit. And I'm just trying to get the right level of brightness there. And then let's go to the Details tab, and I'm going to do a noise reduction. And probably pretty heavy here. And color noise reduction. And now I think we're looking pretty smooth. It's not bad. Yeah, look at that, looks really good in there. So if we go up to like 200% or so, we're a little bit blurry. Let's see if just a slight amount of sharpening can help. Not really. All right, I think I'm pretty happy with that. And so I'm going to click OK. And then I want to go ahead and save this back. I'm just going to save back to the same file. And we'll just leave the layers and everything. It's really not that important. And then I want to go back over to Siril, and let's open that TIFF. And actually, I want to change my home directory here now. No, I don't. I want to leave that because I'm going to do the star recomposition here in just a moment. So the TIFF I just saved over into pictures. We're going to open that. And processing, so we're going to reopen that TIFF. All right, so that looks nice. And at this point, I want to save this back as a 32-bit FITS image so that we can use it in the star recomposition. So, and I'm going to put that, excuse me, back in the work directory with my star mask file. So, and I'll call this processed. And we're going to make that a fit. And save it, and we will select 32-bit and save. Now we want to open up the star processing again, and we're going to do a star recomposition. And we'll select our files. So on this one, I want to use the starless processed fit. Okay, and there we have it. And on this one, I want to use the star mask. And open that. All right, so this actually stretched pretty nicely right now. I don't think there's much to do with that. I mean, we can look at it and see what, I guess we can brighten it up some. Yeah, let's actually check it out. And what happens with our black point? I definitely don't want to clip. Okay, I like it, the vibrance of it, so I do want to keep that. And so let's go ahead and bring some stars in here. And I don't want to overdo it. There are so many stars in the star field that I just want to bring in the important stuff. And obviously, we've got the star here in the witch's broom, and I want to make sure it's saturated enough. Now, as I need to set a symmetry point here, I think, because I'm going to end up clipping. So let's bump it up a little bit so we can start seeing it. And the symmetry point, I really want, let's see how this works. I really want that to be my symmetry point. I want to bring that star out. So See, as we get a flat line across the top here, that's clipping. I think we're okay, but I really would like to see, one thing that I'm not happy with right now is this kind of halo around the star, which is where the star was removed, but it left kind of the whatever the nebulosity glow that was around it, and it's giving me a problem. And really what I was hoping is that I would get that star back. Yeah, that's not really gonna help me much. Well, let's just see what happens if I blow it out. Okay, that's actually better. We'll back that off a little bit. So that is not too bad. I think I'm going to work a little bit more on this right here, around that star that's right on the nebula, and see if I can smooth out that that halo that's around it. That's the only thing in this image that I'm unhappy with right now. So I think I'll work on that a little bit more and see what I can do outside of the video. And anyway, we can go ahead and apply both of these and close. And with that, I'm pretty much done processing here in Siril. I'm going to go back over into Photoshop just for some touch-up, and hopefully I can resolve that one thing that I'm not liking. But I really like the nebulosity. This is wispiness that we brought out around here. This is actually really cool in this area right here. If I can, so like right up in there, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, I like all the detail that's coming out of this. So this, I'm really happy with this image. So let's clean up this a little bit. And so anyway, I hope you like this video, and I hope it's helpful. You know, if you have any questions or want to discuss anything about this, you know, I mean, obviously every time I'm doing this, I'm learning something new. And again, for any of the specifics on using Siril or using Sirilic, I would definitely defer over to Rich with Deep Space Astro. It's where I've learned everything that I'm using today, and you know, I certainly think Rich's resources, you know, his content over there is golden, and so I definitely suggest that that you go check out his channel if you haven't already. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much. If you did, please give a like and subscribe, and I look forward to hearing your comments down below. I'll have some links and things like that in the description. Have a great day.